Welcome. I want to give a general greeting to everyone that is logging in to today's webinar. We're going to be getting started here in just a couple of minutes, but I want to welcome you as you're getting set up at your computer or wherever you're watching or listening to this webinar. We're going to walk through the details of today in just a moment, but I know some of you are joining us in different time zones. So good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast and Central Time Zone. Good morning to those of you who are with me on the West Coast. And I want to welcome you to what is the kickoff of KRA's winter webinar series. And we're excited to bring you into the sessions that we're going to be offering over the next couple of months. We have a number of topics that are part of our business portfolio, as well as areas where we have different speakers from within our organization that are leaders, that are subject matter experts in these areas. And so we're excited to share this content with you. We're excited to engage with you throughout today. So today is going to be engaging. We're going to have with our presenters an opportunity for you to engage with some of the content as well. Also getting to learn where you're from, what you do, and who you're with, so that we can stay connected with you. But like I said, this is just the first in a series of winter webinar sessions. We hope that you join us for all of them over the next couple of months. And we'll talk later about some of the various topics to come. But with that being said, I don't want to take up too much of the time that is allotted for today's session. I want to hand it off to our team here today that's going to walk you through some of the housekeeping and the next steps for today's session, which is Leadership Reimagined. And so with that being said, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Ryan Rand.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're so glad to have you here. We're excited to get started and to jump into the first of our winter workshops. Just a few housekeeping notes for you before we jump in. You may have noticed that your mic is turned off, that it is disabled. This feature, we will unmute mics as necessary throughout the event. So if you have a question, if you would like to unmute your mic, if you'd like to join the conversation, we would invite you to raise your virtual hand. So if you look in your team setting bar, you should see a hand icon that looks like this with raise under it. I'm going to click that and you can see on my screen here on my video, a little hand comes up there in the corner. So whenever you would like to join the conversation, ask a question, please, you are more than welcome to raise your virtual hand. We'll unmute you and then we'll proceed from there. Additionally, we want to point out that the Q&A is turned on for this event as well. Again, up in that settings bar, there is a button that says Q&A. If you go there, you can submit a question directly to us, directly to the presenter team. You can make it anonymous if you choose to, and then we will address those questions as we go as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Calandria Thompson to kick us off.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Again, welcome. We're glad that you have joined us today. We are looking forward to spending some time with you, engaging and learning more about leadership. To kick us off, we definitely want to start with just some icebreakers, maybe getting to know a little bit about our audience. So if you will, we are going to pop up a poll. Please take the time and answer the poll questions. It should be 2 questions. What is your role, and also what company are you with? Also, we want you to get used to using the chat, get active in the chat. So it would be so great if you could drop in the chat what state you are joining us from. So 2 questions. The poll should be up on your screen now. What is your role? Fill those out. This helps us get to know more about our audience. So that we can engage with you on a deeper level, but also, of course, it's good for us to know how far the reach is here. So if you want to start that, that would be great. And then jump over in the chat and share with us what state you're joining from. And I can tell you I'm in Alabama. So it's cold here. I'm not sure what's happening everywhere else, but it is cold for Alabama right now. Typically, we don't see winter weather until January, and we've gotten it a lot sooner than that. So tell us where you're from. We're interested in knowing that. And then we will move forward with our presentation. So we'll just do this for a few minutes. Shouting out looks like Wisconsin, Virginia, Texas, Illinois. Let's see where else? Southwestern Illinois, Washington State, Alaska, Wisconsin, South Carolina, and of course, California. Welcome, California. I'm envying your weather because I hope it's a lot warmer there than it actually is here where I am. New Hampshire. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time to answer the polls. It looks like we have a vast majority of workforce service providers at 52%. And then our next highest group is going to be county agency and local workforce boards. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Ryan, next slide, please. Right, so I'm going to introduce myself, and then, of course, I'm going to allow my colleagues to introduce themselves as well. My name is Calandria Thompson. I am the Director of People and Culture for KRA. In my role, I oversee what is traditionally known as the HR department. So I am, overall looking for talent, managing performance, and, benefits, the typical HR things. I have been in this role almost 2 years, so still really excited about this opportunity with KRA. Again, looking forward to talking to you more about leadership development. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Ms. Saskia Ruiz.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I am logging in from California. I've worked with KRA now for 8 years. They are a Maryland-based company, so we are based in Maryland, but I have worked in California since joining over 8 years ago. This is one of my favorite topics. I love management, personnel development, leadership, training. This is an area where we invest heavily here at KRA, and we'll talk more about why we do that here. But I'm very excited to be here with you and to learn from you all, just as we plan to share some information with you as well. And I'll pass the talking stick to Ryan Rand.
Hello again, everybody. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble unmuting myself. I am KRA's Engagement and Development Specialist. I work with the PNC team.
Ryan, you muted yourself again.
I didn't, but who knows? So I work in our people and culture department with our development for our staff from frontline to our executive leadership. I also play a role in our communications department, and I am delighted to be with you here today to share more about our leadership development program.
All right, thank you all. Ryan, if you want to move to the next slide, please. So looking at our agenda today, these are some of the topics that we hope to cover with you during our time together. We're going to look at our Leadership Edge Boot Camp. That is the basis for this presentation, the evolution of that boot camp, the core pillars that we have identified as being the most important things to make sure that we are covering and addressing when we are creating this particular boot camp, our strategic foresight, real world leader development, evaluating the experience, so getting to know more from our attendees, their experience, and how we can continuously improve, cultivating a learning experience. What are some steps that we need to take to make sure that we are creating an environment so that our participants are, of course, learning and it is a pleasant experience. And then, of course, measuring impact and moving forward. So, again, just making sure that we are addressing the areas of need as well as continuing to evolve and grow and develop as we continue to host these boot camps. And then, of course, a Q&A for any questions that you may have at the end. Next slide, please. I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Saskia. She's going to share more with you about KRA.
KRA Corporation has been in business for over 40 years, 44 years to be exact, coming up on our 45th anniversary here in February. And we are basically a service provider working closely with local workforce boards, states, and other local governments. Our specialty is basically training. We believe in coming into local communities, training our workforce, and making connections with employers so that our job seekers can be connected with those jobs that are coming available in the future. We view ourselves as advisors to our to our employer community. Through our business services arm, we ensure that we're providing them, especially small businesses, with information that they need. We provide them with tools, resources that they need to also remain competitive in this marketplace. Our core values are, which what KRA stands for is knowledge, responsibility, and achievement. And that is embedded into our company culture. We are very deep into an innovation, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We have high standards of our team because our clients have high standards of us, and we believe in verifying the results, making sure that not only are we, saying that we're going to do something, but also proving that those results have been accomplished. The picture here that you have, that is a picture actually from our website. If you go to kra.com and you go to the About Us section, there is a timeline. That is a picture of our company CEO, Mr. Knowlton Atterbury, and that walks you through the evolution of KRA. So with that, we can move to the next slide, and I'll pass the talking stick back to Calandria.
All right, as we dive right in, so first big question, and this is where we definitely want you to engage with us as much as possible. Feel free to raise your hand if you want to be unmuted, or you can drop your responses in the chat. But why is leadership hard? What is it about leadership that makes it so difficult for some? What are some areas of, I guess, development that are necessary to make us better leaders? So feel free, jump in anywhere you can and share with us your responses to this question. Why is leadership so hard? I can tell you for myself, when I first initially stepped into leadership, the idea of having to lead people that I previously worked beside, that is something that is difficult. It's always hard to kind of separate yourself from your peers and have to, put yourself in a position of authority where they actually have to go from, being just friendly to actually having to listen to some of the things that you have to say and following directions from you. That's not always an easy task. So what else makes leadership hard? All right, I got people with their own opinions and agendas. Absolutely. Part of leadership is understanding that we all have an opinion. Sometimes the goal is not as common and is not as succinct as we want it to be. So getting people on the same page is definitely difficult. Different needs, absolutely. That is one of the most important pieces of being a good leader, is recognizing that no two people are the same. You definitely have to treat everyone in a way that is motivational for them. You have to meet them where they are. And sometimes you have to, adjust the message so that it can be received. So absolutely, meeting everybody's needs is going to be hard. A lack of confidence or imposter syndrome. Absolutely. Sometimes you have to build your leaders up. You have to be someone who provides them the space and the growth to build their confidence. Not everybody sees their own their own value sometimes. Sometimes that's something that as a leader, you have to show them. So that's a great point. Managing too many emotions, emotional intelligence is definitely going to be at the top of the list as well. You have to know how to sometimes suppress them, sometimes embrace them, and sometimes you just have to walk away and take a deep breath and then come back and try it again. So definitely you have to be in a place to where you can manage your emotions, because if you can't manage yours, you won't be able to deal with others. Conflict resolution, creating healthy office culture, questions of authority. Absolutely. All of those are to be expected. Different behaviors and learning skills. Yes, we talked about that. Limited time for continuing education. Absolutely. Right now, if we don't make learning and development a priority, it's always going to be the last thing on the list. So you definitely have to spend an extra amount of effort to prioritize your learning and development. Hard to find work life balance. That is definitely, we take on a lot, right? As leaders, we are expected to be ultimately responsible. So if we can't get the work done through our staff, then that often falls on us. Sometimes we have ambitious leaders in the C suite who have goals that are not necessarily always as reasonable as we would think. That requires a little extra effort. So that is absolutely important. Always remember, if we can't find work-life balance, though, what kind of leader are we? How good are we going to be if we're burning the candle from both ends? So I think it's definitely important that we're having those conversations and always trying to find a way to make sure that we are, as much as leaders, we have to pour into others, make sure you're pouring into yourselves. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Those were some great answers. Definitely all areas that we have to be mindful of when we're thinking about leadership, and also keeping in mind when you're thinking about a leadership development program, because those are all of the areas that your new leaders are probably likely struggling as well. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about developing the next person in line. Remember some of those things and try to address those up front, or at the very least get them speaking and talking about it so that you can try and head those off before they become major problems. Next slide, please. All right. So now that we have kind of thought about what makes leadership hard, can you think of anybody who, in your mind, they had the recipe? They had all of the things, they had everything that you needed in a leader that made them just a great leader. So, who is that person? Who do you think of when you're thinking about a great leader? And what about that person qualifies them to be a great leader? And what qualities actually defined their leadership style? Mine is going to be a leader that is approachable. I think it's important that as a leader, you be somebody that your staff can come to. I think that's going to be most important. We have to feel like, you know, the staff is comfortable coming to us. Because if they're not comfortable coming to you, then nothing, you'll never get to a place to where you're actually able to motivate them or even get them, to work through them, because they're not going to communicate with you when they're struggling, because we all struggle. What else are some qualities that define a great leader's leadership style? A leader who thinks outside of the box. Absolutely. Absolutely. We do know, of course, there's always that tried and true method that may work. But sometimes there are times where we can improve the process. There are some areas where maybe the way that it was done wasn't efficient and we can find new ways to do it. So somebody who can think outside of the box, who's not kind of confined to doing things status quo, absolutely important. All right, I have it. And please forgive me. I think it's Nelda who says her former mentor. He inspired people, trusted you, and built you up. Absolutely. If you want your staff to perform at their top peak, you have to show them that you trust them. You do have to build them up. You have to give them the authority and the autonomy to do their best work. So that is absolutely important. Someone who empowers and listens to their team members. Absolutely. It should never be your goal to be the only subject matter expert. I don't want to be the answer for every question. I don't want to have to be part of every solution. So, empowering your team to be able to make choices, to be able to work through processes, trial and error. That's important. It keeps them feeling like they matter, that they're valued, as well as that's what's going to set them up to be the next set of great leaders, because you've already kind of got them thinking in that way, to where I know that I may have a solution to this problem, or I'm fully capable of addressing this area of concern. So absolutely, a leader who cares about their people, isn't that so important? Definitely today, because we are all struggling with something. Definitely at KRA, one of the things that we make sure that we promote is your work-life balance and your wellness. Making sure that you are pouring into yourself. We are encouraging our staff to do the things that they need to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, because we know the type of work that we do is heavy and it's difficult. So we have to definitely, as leaders, be caring enough to spend just at least a few minutes checking in on our people and making sure that they are taking care of themselves. A leader who is willing to work beside others when needed. Absolutely. As a leader, sometimes we have to roll up our sleeves and get down next to our staff. And you may not recognize the impact immediately, but if you think about how much that would mean to someone, knowing that my supervisor, who is the EVP, is willing to get in the weeds and assist me and whatever is going on, that brings me so much joy, and it makes me want to work harder, because I know that if all else failed, I have a support system in my supervisor, and she's going to provide me some additional support. So absolutely, you will never know how much impact that has on somebody when you are willing to just, set aside titles and step into the line of fire and work right alongside of them. So absolutely. Good communicator. I did see that one. That's so important. Keeping lines of communication open. It is the only way that we can make sure that we are, one, on the same page with our staff, but two, that they understand that they can come and communicate, that they are able to have a voice, that they do know that we want to hear from them. It's not always going to be good things, but I want to hear all of them, good or bad. So, absolutely, we have to be good communicators in both ways, as well as good listeners, right? If we communicate well, then we teach them to communicate well. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Those are all great qualities that we need as leaders. Right. So, next slide, please. So, why does evolution matter? Why do we need to continue to grow and develop? What is it that makes it necessary for us to always continue to learn and grow and do better? Drop some of those reasons in the chat. Share some of the reasons why you feel like, as a leader, well, I've gotten to this level. Have I not done enough? Have I not learned enough? Have I not grown enough? Absolutely not. We should always be in a place of growing and learning and development. Yes, you must be a lifelong learner. There is absolutely no way, especially when you think about all the ways that life continues to evolve, right? No part of your life gets to a point and says, okay, this is it, unless you decide that that's where it's at. But think about technology. Think about how things are continuing to grow in terms of people's abilities and skills. All of those things are constantly changing. I'm sure nothing that we learned 30 years ago is as relevant today as it was then. So those are, definitely important reasons to always want to evolve. I see technology changes and new generations are coming with different ways of living and thriving. Absolutely. Absolutely. Technology is growing us faster than I think any of us are really willing and wanting to go at this point. But we have to keep up. And you also have to think about what is it that you're doing in your companies. What are, what is the basis of your business? Are those things changing? If you want to continuously be relevant in our industry, we have to continue to grow with the industry, because it is definitely not stopping. Our approach, managing different generations in the workplace. Saskia, I think you said this in one of our meetings recently. There's roughly 6 generations in the workforce right now, which is mind-boggling. If you think about that, 6 different generations all working here together, and we do, in certain areas, have vast differences in the way that we see things and our ideas about how things should be done. So that is a great reason to want to continue to evolve. And then think about your leaders. Part of being a good leader as well is being able to be flexible, being able to move from and pivot from one thing to another. Because as, like I said, the industry continues to grow, your leaders need to be able to do the same thing. And so, how do we make sure that that happens? How do we ensure that our leaders are always evolving if we're not? If we're stuck, we can't expect them to come in and just pick up the baton and start something new if we haven't been willing to pass the baton or be willing to make adjustments to old processes, right? It says not only cultural, generational relevance, but appropriateness as well. Absolutely. Moral values are changing as well. There's always something to learn, and AI is something that we all need to learn today. Absolutely. AI is definitely taking the workforce by storm. It is the hottest thing right now. And the best thing we can do is learn how to leverage that resource to our needs to make it work for us, right? We don't want to be left behind. All right, so those are some great responses of why evolution matters. Thank you so much for those. Let's move on to the next slide. So here's some statistics. So some things that I just want to know, did you know these things? So 70% of HR leaders believe that current leadership development programs fall short of preparing leaders for future challenges. That is an alarming number, 70%. So that means only 30% of HR leaders feel like they're being proper, that leadership development programs are actually preparing our leaders for the next phase. That is a very alarming statistic. Gallup estimates that organizations choose the wrong candidate for a manager role 82% of the time. My goodness. Drop in the chat, is that something that you've experienced and within your companies or other companies? Are you seeing that this statistic kind of hits home? Because a lot of times we do promote people for the wrong reasons, because we have not necessarily invested the time and the effort in their development. It maybe we're choosing them because they're coming to work, because they don't cause a problem, because they follow all of the rules. Just because they come to work, they know the task and the role that they're working on, and they don't create any issues, does not necessarily mean that they're ready for leadership. As of 2024, only 27% of managers globally are engaged in their work. That is also alarming. A manager's engagement is a primary factor for influencing their team's overall engagement. And then in 2025 analysis, it was noted that 82% of managers did not receive any leadership training. So even that is alarming. We should be developing our managers. All right, so next slide, and I'm going to pass the talking stick over to Saskia, who is going to share some additionals.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Calandria. Yes, those statistics are definitely alarming. And I can share with you that here at KRA, we have to continue to evolve. We work in a very complex environment. A lot of the funding sources that we receive for our programs has to do with, they're heavily regulated. There's a lot of local laws. Our local boards have their own laws and our own policies as well. We are subject to compliance working as a subcontractor, and it's just a revolving door of regulations that change. Right now, there's a lot of change in the environment, and as someone said, AI is something that we have to embrace. So things are always changes. The industry's changing. regulations are changing. When I think about, when I graduated college, that was 20 years ago. And those books are now obsolete. Those books that I studied, those management business books from way back when, someone said that you have to embrace being a continuous learner, a lifelong learner. And that is the mindset that we need to have. It's definitely not a one and done. It's something that as an organization, we have to embrace. It should not just be up to the individual. As an organization, we definitely want to create an environment that nurtures continuous learning. We also, as a subcontractor, KRA, we may work in a region for 10 years, and then we may start working in a new region. And that leader, the staff members within that person's preview have to be trained. The leader has to get acclimated to the culture, the rules, the regulations that come with that contract or come with that within that region. And then someone talked about, the changes that we have due to different generations in the workforce, different cultural preference, different cultures that are in the workforce. So all of those things make it necessary for us to create a leadership development program that is very intentional for KRA. And so we've taken all of that information. We're keeping our ear to what's going on in the regulations. We're keeping our ear to, what's going on in the demographics and our population within our centers, within our regions, but also within our team, and creating a program that helps us address some of those needs. Next slide. Alrighty, so continuing with the evolution of KRA, of the Leadership Bootcamp. Here at KRA, we call it Leadership Edge. In your organization, you may brand that or title that as something else, but we want our participants, our staff, when they come to the Leadership Bootcamp, when they hear Leadership Edge, we want them to already know what is it about. So by coming up with a name, instead of just calling it a leadership bootcamp, by labeling, branding it as Leadership Edge, you create an atmosphere and expectation. So it's definitely a program that we have financed and prioritized over the years, where we're training our leadership team. This could be someone that was recently promoted into a leadership role. This could be someone that has joined the organization at an executive level, as a director level. And at least 2 times a year, we're getting together to train on some of those core issues that we want to tackle based on what's going on in the industry, based on what's going on in our environment. We also, consider launching programs relating to our emerging leaders, making sure that we're building our bench. Of course, there is training opportunities throughout the year, but at least twice a year, we want to make sure that we're sitting our leaders down and having in-depth conversations about leadership and some of the issues that they're going to face. This is where they have an opportunity to practice. We are not going to get good at anything if we don't get to practice. Earlier, someone talked about, conflict resolution, dealing with people. Well, this is where you can practice with no judgment. This is where we practice. We actually role play. We take the time to role play having a difficult conversation, having a performance evaluation discussion, having a difficult conversation with your boss. So this is a judgment-free zone where we are practicing, we are empowering our leaders. Usually when you join an organization, you are expected to do, and there's not much space to practice. So that is I think one of the advantages is that you have to create a space where they can practice before they have to do it. And this is the space that we have created. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a little busy, but this is our timeline. Leadership Edge started even before I joined KRA, but it's something that has continued. This is part of our company culture. So it started in 2010. One of our founding leaders of this Leadership Edge program is Mr. Joseph Seymour, who now is, for a couple of years ago, was the president for the SETA organization. And this has continued. It has been embedded into the company culture. Over time, you will see that we did have a pause in 2020 through 2021 due to the pandemic. Once we resumed in 2022, we had to make sure that the training program included wellness. Of course, we wanted to tackle project management skills such as, financial management and collaboration and communication. But coming out of the pandemic, again, looking at what's going on outside of the organization, we definitely had to provide wellness programs. There was a lot of loss, just a lot going on for our team. We were used to the quarantine mode of doing business. So we knew that we had to re-engage our leaders. Moving on to 2023, you can see some of the themes that we continued. We even had in 2023, again, our leaders were not used to engaging. We had to retrain them on how do you present to a board? How do you present information to a workforce board? So they had to practice presentations to doing a presentation to a board. We also kicked off our mental health first aid certification program. So in 2023, we decided as an organization that all of our leaders will become mental health first aid to help with addressing, to make sure that they have the appropriate skills to deal with the work at hand. So this is just to see, just as an example on how we have changed the themes of the boot camp of the Leadership Edge due to whatever was going on externally and whatever business needs were at the time. Next slide. All right, so our core pillars of our Leadership Edge program. There are 4 pillars, and I am going to cover the project management excellence. And this is where, of course, it's all fun and it's great to have a good time at work, but it's whether it's a nonprofit, a state, a federal, a school, it's still a business entity. So we still have to deliver services, whatever the service may be. Everyone is being paid to provide a service. So essentially, we have to make sure that our leaders have the financial and budget fluency. They understand strategic planning. They understand how to people manage. And that is one of our important pillars. Of course, we have an onboarding program and a training program, but when it comes to our Leadership Edge program, that is one of our important pillars because it is essential for our leaders to know how to manage whatever task they're assigned and to know how and to have the tools to be able to lead people with confidence. Another important adoption that we've done is to ensure that all of our leaders are certified workforce development professionals through NADA. And if you're not familiar with NADA, I definitely encourage you to visit their website and explore their offerings. When we're talking about continuing education, KRA has been a strong partner of NADA for the past years. We've collaborated on several projects, and that is a great resource to you if you are in the workforce services field or even in education and other fields or that intersect with workforce. That is a great resource to you. Now I'm going to pass the talking stick back to Ryan.
I think Calandria is going to take over for people-centered culture.
That is correct. Sorry.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about our leadership development program, the most important piece, of course, are going to be our people. At KRA, we have a very people-centered culture because we recognize that investing in our people is going to provide us the best return on our investment. So we do this through employee experience. We measure and monitor that through do surveys. We have an EEC that is also made up of frontline staff who have input into what the employee experience looks like. Um, Accountability, making sure that we are holding individuals as accountable for the work and the performance, as well as making sure that as leaders we are holding ourselves accountable for our growth and development of not just ourselves but our staff as well, and then providing them holistic support, not just providing them performance expectations, but also providing them with wellness programs, providing them with um, the educational development opportunities. So making sure that we are pouring into the entire individual is part of what makes our Leadership Edge program so important for the company as a whole. Ryan?
Thank you, Calandria. Our third pillar is wellness and self-care. As Saskia mentioned, all of our leaders are required to become mental health first aiders or mental health first aid certified. We are very proud of all of our leaders for going through this program, and we found it is absolutely essential for our leaders to understand how to handle individuals who may be experiencing a mental health crisis and to make sure that everyone that they are taking care of remains safe. In addition to mental health, we really, as Calandra mentioned, want to provide holistic support, holistic wellness. So that includes financial health, physical wellness, as many of those resources as we can provide. A great example of this is we provided a live learning series internally last year to our whole staff that was run by a representative from JP Morgan and Chase. They went through how to buy a home as a first-time homeowner, how to manage your credit, everything from basic to complex. So that's something that was a simple resource that we could provide to our team that can really help them. Through our efforts, we were also awarded the Silver Level Cigna Healthy Workforce designation for 2024. This indicates that the company shows a certain level, a high level of effort and attention and resources towards the employees' overall health. Again, that financial, mental, and physical wellness. And that fourth pillar is innovation and technology. As we've mentioned, we are always trying to provide our leaders with new education, with new training. This includes AI, human insights, especially as we move forward into that being a large part of our world. It also includes our KRA Innovation Lab run by Mr. Jonathan Overall, where individuals from across the company can come together to brainstorm and develop better technology solutions. And again, our continued education and keeping our knowledge up to date in our field. All right, and I'll pass this back to Saskia.
Hey, so as you're walking through this presentation, I hope you're walking away with some tools. If I think Calandria just dropped in the chat and asked if you currently have a leadership development program in your organization. So I'm hoping that you're walking away with some tools to understand how this is coming together. And while we're so at this moment, help us to get from your viewpoint, what do you think are some of the leadership skills of the future? What are some, we talked about that, why we thought leadership is hard, and what were some of the qualities that you believed were good qualities of a leader. But as we think about the future, what's going on in our economy and our industry, nationally and globally, what do you think are going to be some of the necessary skills of the future? I know we talked about AI, but what else? I think I read somewhere, one of the books or one of the podcasts that I was reading, that that one thing that AI will not replace is creativity and humanity. And I thought that was quite interesting. So what else, when we think about the skills of the future, what other skills, what other leadership skills do we think are going to be essential to lead in the future? Absolutely. Communication is not going to go out of style. As much AI is not, even if you use AI to communicate, it's just a tool that's assisting you with communication. But communication is a tool that is definitely not going to go out of style. Teamwork, collaboration, people development, right? We still need people to join the labor force in different industries, in different markets. We are still going to have to do that. So as we think about the skills of the future, we can think about these in four segments, right? Uh, Leading the future, understanding what's going on outside of industry, outside of your organization, what's happening with the budgets, happening with changes, with some industries becoming obsolete and new industries coming on. When I, again, graduated college 20 years ago, I had no clue that an influencer would become a profitable business, right? But to my children who are 18 and 23, this is normal, having a social presence, making money off of social media. That is something common now that we all have heard of. But 20 years ago, we would have told someone, get a real job. So thinking about, what skills are we going to need to lead the future? Leading with courage. Uh, Leadership is not for the weak, right? And leading with change, being adaptable, being able to lead others. We talked about communication, being able to provide feedback. There's things that people are not going to know. Sometimes I know that I grew up with my grandparents where they provide limited instructions and they expect you to figure it out. Well, some of the current generations that doesn't work well. So being able to be adaptable, understanding that there are multiple generations in the workforce, being able to lead yourself, right? And I think part of leading yourself includes taking care of yourself as well, because we cannot try to save the world and we're not taking care of ourselves as well. So I hope as you start thinking about a strategy, you think about your mission, your values, and start thinking about these four categories and the pillars that are going to be important to your organization or to yourself as you think about leadership development. Again, the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with some tools and to provide you with some structure on how to go about developing a leadership program for your organization or how to approach leadership for yourself. Next slide, please. And this one's for you, Ryan.
All right, so we are going to look at some real world leadership development, how we take what we've been talking about in terms of big ideas and translate it into our leadership edge day-to-day processes. So first off, adapting to the learner. We are very much interested in how our education needs to or can change and be determined by those that we are educating, because one size does not fit all when it comes to education. So we have employed tools like learning style assessments to understand our individual audiences and to take our education, the basics of the knowledge we're trying to convey, and really adapt it to the learner themselves. Included in that is those focused workshops, again, knowing your audience, those certifications and continued education that we've talked about, and opportunities to hear from different people with different learning styles. We absolutely love to include outside speakers in our Leadership Edge events. One of our most recent events, we had members from NAUDUP come in and speak with our team on some of those resources and ways that they can advance. So it really is about exploring all the different options and what's right for the individual person and how we can really adapt to our teams. Additionally is departmental integration. So although we are spearheading this project, our leadership development journey for our team, we cannot do it alone, and we shouldn't. We don't have all the knowledge. As much as we would love to say that we do, we don't know everything. And the other departments within KRA, our coworkers, are incredibly knowledgeable and have that knowledge to share. So using those around us and being able to understand and learn new things from our colleagues is absolutely essential. And interactive learning. I'm sure a lot of people have come to a point in education for one topic or another where they say, I just need to do it myself. I just need to figure it out, to put my hands on it. And that really is that interactive learning piece, experiencing something, connecting to the education yourself, doing simulations, having your team develop their own strategies for a project that they may have never been involved in before. And capstones, having a goal that we're working towards. So at the end of many of our Leadership Edge events, we have a capstone session where our teams are presenting something to us, or they are engaging in a simulation presentation or pitch. And it really helps wrap everything together and really give that individual that hands-on learning experience. So moving forward in the timeline of our event, in the timeline of Leadership Edge, we have developed our event. We know what we're going to teach, but how do we tell whether it's effective? And going back to knowing our audience, we want to make sure that we understand who we are educating. So we, for all of our events, have a pre and a post survey. There are some examples on your screen here. I won't read through all of these, but there are some examples of how we may format a pre and a post event. Some things for the pre-event survey that I'll point out is open-ended questions, asking that individual, what would be a good use of your time? How can we make this a good use of your time? Again, we don't know everything, so let us know what would be great for you. Theme-specific questions, again, we may know the theme that we're going after, but we want to know what would be best and how best to teach our team. And then the post-event survey. I know that receiving feedback can be difficult for some. And at KRA, we have really embraced the idea that the more feedback that we can receive, the better. And it really has become a very easy, very good process that we look forward to seeing this feedback that we receive after our events, asking for ratings of the event, asking for their experience. Simple questions like whether they felt comfortable participating in those conversations and those activities. And then how can we do better in the future? What do you want to see more of in the future? Cultivating that education to our learner. Cultivating a learning experience. So when we go into planning a Leadership Edge event, we have that pre-survey, we have maybe a theme, but how do we really make this an experience that the individuals, the participants will really leave with something to propel them forward, to develop new ideas, to have a new experience and a new education, a new foundation. So the approach and planning, establishing a theme, being very intentional about what that process is going to be and what that theme is going to be. Establishing whether you're doing a virtual or in-person event. We have had both, and both have been fantastic. Our participants have been so engaged and so willing to engage in these events. You want to decide the location and the setting. This can make a huge difference. You can see here in the bottom photos, I'll point out this one on the bottom right. This was a Leadership Edge event from a few years ago where we held the event for several days in a museum hotel. So between sessions, we were able to take all of our leaders, all of our participants, and do a tour of the museum hotel and add that little bit of education, of creativity, of a new experience into that learning day, a little bit of extra excitement as well. the activities, the agenda, how can we keep people engaged, what can we give them that's really hands-on, and then what can we give them to walk away with. We never want someone to walk out the door and then just forget everything they learned or not know how to use it going forward. So what tools can we provide? What resources can we give that will really let them move out of the training and into using those tools in real life, which leads me to that long-term follow-through, giving that real-world practice so those participants understand how to use those tools and that new education in their day-to-day. After the event, re-engaging those tools, meeting with your leaders a month later, and doing another activity, another exercise that reinstills that education. And again, utilizing meetings, meeting with them consistently. We never want a learning experience to be a one-off event. We always want to move through the follow through to follow up with them and make sure that those tools are still being engaged and used in the long run. All right, and I will hand this back to Calandria and Saskia.
All right. So when it comes to, of course, measuring the impact, again, we are providing a service. And this is where we may want to see the change in maybe the number of, if we're training on personnel management, the number of complaints that came through HR. Maybe we will see that in better performance, better attainment of meeting our measures and our goals for our clients. So there's multiple ways where we measure the impact and also the fluency, the comfort. You can see that now leaders are more comfortable handling a particular situation or addressing certain problems once they are provided with that space to practice. That is some of the impact that we have seen. Of course, we have tools that we can use to gauge that, and you can see that up to, if you're in the C-suite, up to the bottom line on how, when you work with individuals that are empowered and provided with the resources to manage, you can definitely see the change in the way that they respond. Calandria, not sure if you want to add anything else here.
No, I think that was great. I think Zaskia may have frozen. Okay, if you want to move to the next slide. I know that we are at time at this point, so we want to move forward. Are there any questions? Feel free to either raise your hand to be unmuted or drop them in the chat. I know that this has gone just a little longer than we expected, so we can definitely hang out and answer any questions if you have to go. So if you want to move on, Ryan, to the next slide, I can answer questions that you drop in the chat. And then, like I said, we can spend time after just hanging out if you want to stay with us.
Right, and go back for one moment. We have a special spin the wheel activity. So we are going to, I'm going to transition over to that screen. I'm going to see if I can do that without leaving here. I don't think so. I think, Calandria, let's go ahead and go over this slide, and then I can stop sharing and spin the wheel, and we'll let Jonathan go over the prizes for our 2 spin the wheel winners here in just a moment.
All right.
Sorry, Calandria. I just saw a real quick comment in the chat. Will the PowerPoint be sent out? So you are welcome to contact us individually if you would like the PowerPoint, the slides. The email peopleandculture@kra.com is on here on the screen. We will share the recording, but the slides will not be automatically shared. Sorry, Calandria, go ahead.
Okay. So we definitely want to thank you guys for spending time with us today. We also want to hear from you. Please feel free to complete the survey to let us know how we did. You can scan the QR code that is on the screen right now to provide us with that information. We would greatly appreciate any and all feedback that you can provide to us. We also want to remind you to check out the KRA.com for any of the other winter series presentations that are happening, we definitely would like to see you at another one of our events. And again, as Ryan mentioned, if you have questions or you are interested in any of the materials, feel free to reach out to us directly. You can also catch us all on LinkedIn. So follow us on LinkedIn if that's not something you're already doing. And you can also email us at peopleandculture.com. I'm sorry, peopleandculture@kra.com. Next slide, please.
And I'll just point out the next session is down there at the bottom. I will stick the 2 links in the chat as well. The link to register for another upcoming winter webinar series and the link to let us know how we did in the post-event survey. And I know we're a few minutes over, but you can try to stay online so that you're eligible to win one of the 2 prizes that we are just about to draw. And we'll pass it over to Jonathan to close us out and to let us know about the prizes.
Well, again, thank you, team, Zaskia, Calandria, and Ryan for a great, insightful presentation. I want to thank all of you that have joined us today as well for this. This is, as we mentioned throughout, this is the first in a series of sessions that we are offering over the next 2 months. Our next session, as you just saw on the last screen, is coming up 2 weeks from today. And we're going to be tackling the topic of business services. What do we do beyond the cold call in engaging businesses in the community? And so throughout this series, we're going to talk about fiscal management. We're going to talk around building culture, a culture of engagement within our organizations. And we're going to talk about communications and marketing, telling our story through our brand in the work that we do and how we can do that better. So share that with you as we go through this series over the next couple of months. We also want to get to know you. We count it as a priority to attend workforce conferences, to engage in the topics, the subjects that are a priority with our industry. And we want this series to be that for you as well. But we also want to get to connect with you. This is virtual, but we would love to take the opportunity to connect with you outside of this. You can scan the QR code here that's on the screen for more ways to do that. My contact information as the Director of Communications is also listed here, as well as Patrick Boxall, our Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer. I'll also put in a quick plug if you would like to hear more of Ryan and Calandria. There's a special episode, I believe it's episode 61 of KRA's The Hub podcast that you can listen, where they talk as well, some of the topics of today around people and culture, KRA's approach and strategies there. So you can follow our podcast on Apple, Spotify. You can go to our website, and also now on YouTube, you can find our podcast episodes there. Now, I know it was promised. I'm going to mention the prizes for today. And so we have a few books here on leadership and management. The first is It's a Manager by Jim Clifton and Jim Harder. That's one of our giveaways. We also have some KRA swag that's part of the giveaway package. The second gift is The 4 Stages of Psychological Safety by Timothy Clark. We're giving away that book today, as well as KRA swag. And we also have a third, Self-Care by Coach Daryl Andrews. Many of you may know him in the workforce development space as well. And so each of those books, they're focused on leadership, self-care, because we believe that's a priority. And it's such an integral part of today's conversation. We have to be healthy leaders, our healthy individuals ourselves, to be able to lead the organizations and the teams that we are a part of. And in addition to each one of those, as I mentioned, there's some KRA swag that we'll throw in there. So when you think about us, as you see those items on your desk. With that being said, I'll hand it back over to Ryan for the spin the wheel and to see who are our lucky winners for today's prizes.
Absolutely. We are spinning the wheel. We've had a few that are not online, so we're spinning until we have someone who is still here with us. You may hear the wheel and some cheering in the background. Let's see, we have Monique here. I think so. And we have Cesar Perez here. Like it. So we have everyone who registered here on the wheel. So please, thank you for your patience. Nilda Duenas. Calandria, can you check names for me?
Yes, you'll have to tell me what they are.
I'll let you know the next one.
Okay.
And if y'all have any questions, please feel free while we're doing this to put them in the chat or to add them in that Q&A section. We have Juanet or Janet, Juanet.
Does not look like Jeanette is still online.
I will get there. Do we have Lisa Minota?
Is it Lisa? What was the name, Maya?
Lisa Minoto.
I am not seeing is it spelled Lisa?
Yes. I don't think so.
Not look like she's online either.
And we have Catherine Yates. It looks like it.
Raise her hand.
Catherine, you are our first winner. If you're still
Catherine,
on,
come on down.
Unmute her here or allow to be unmuted. And if your name is called, please hang out for a second if you can. If not, then we will go ahead and reach out to you by email. And it looks like our next is Maureen Griffin. Only down to 2 pages. I don't think I see Maureen here. Their next one is Eric Whitlock. Yep, it looks like Eric is on as well. All right, well, Catherine and Eric, you two are our winners for today. Thank you all so much for attending the session today. We hope that you enjoyed it. We will certainly send out a follow-up, and please let us know using any of the links, any of the resources we provided, if we can assist you or provide you other resources. You can reach out to us through any of those emails and any of those links, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us.